Hey, Chad.
Hey, Megan. How's it going?
It's been a good day so far.
What were you doing in the chapel? You were doing something with stained glass looking
Yes,
stuff.
we are prepping stations for the Ash Wednesday service next
Okay.
week, which this podcast will probably not even be close to airing in the
Yeah.
general vicinity of that,
Yeah.
so people will already know. But
That's true.
we have some really cool stations for folks to engage with for Ash Wednesday.
Okay.
We're having a noon service in the
Yeah.
chapel,
Yeah.
and then a service in the sanctuary that night, and so we're prepping some fun stuff for that.
I feel like I heard the most church staff uttered statement earlier today
Which
when
was,
I took stained glass in college.
oh, I did say that. I
I was
did say
like,
that.
okay, okay.
I did take a stained glass class in college, and I made a beautiful lamp shade that had like a leaf on it. But I'll just tell you what, cutting at an angle and cutting curved edges is not for the faint of heart.
No.
It is very frustrating.
And is it actually,
Very
what is it
frustrating.
that you're working at? It's actual glass. It's not,
Yes, it's really, yeah,
okay.
you can, I mean, my fingers were just in shreds the whole time I took that class.
Yikes.
But it was so fun, and the colors are great, and it's a really cool thing to do.
Artistic expression. Yeah, that sounds like fun.
I have
It
many of
sounds
those.
like tile mosaics kind of.
Yes.
Only without.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, we're part of the one of the stations is around using like sea glass and putting the tape around it that you would adhere to the piece. So anyway, that's pretty cool.
As riveting.
I
as
know.
this is.
These are really riveting topics.
Let's.
Thank goodness we have a guest today.
Yes, and
Chad, do you want to say anything about your day?
No, nothing.
It's not good enough,
Nothing
obviously.
as interesting as
No.
stained glass.
No, it's not. It's true.
But you know the guest today.
I do. I know the guest
a lot
well.
better than I do. So why don't you?
Yes, today,
do the
friends,
honors.
we have my good friend Jeremy Selvidge here today. Jeremy and I have been on many road trips together to really exciting places like Corpus Christi and McAllen.
Exciting.
I know. I know you're jealous.
Welcome, Jeremy.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Jeremy, we usually start with a 2-minute drill of your life. So if you could give us your life story in 2 minutes, that's how we usually like to start.
Keep it to a tight two.
Yeah.
Too.
Sure. I'm synchronizing my watch. Sure. So I was born in Southeast Texas. I grew up in Vidor, Texas, just outside of Beaumont.
Okay.
I lived there till I graduated high school. After that, I went to Texas A&M University and got my bachelor's degree in English. While I was a student there, I started working at the university libraries. Discovered that I loved libraries. Decided I wanted to go to library school. So I moved down the road to Austin, and I got my master's degree in information studies here at the University of Texas at Austin. And since then, I have worked as a public librarian for about 7 years and recently took a job with the state, working at the State Library and Archives Commission, helping to support libraries throughout Texas.
Like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, that's like the best we've.
Good
ever,
job.
Yeah,
that was very
fantastic.
succinct. I appreciate that.
So when did you? I asked this question and then we'll back up. But when did you start coming here, and when did you meet Megan?
So I started attending University United Methodist on and off whenever I moved here in 2013. Came here for grad school. Started attending a Methodist church while I was at A&M. A friend invited me. Up to that point, I had grown up in Baptist or non-denominational churches. But went to the University Methodist Church in College Station. So whenever I moved here for grad school, I would visit here because it's another university church, and very sporadic on and off worship service here and there. I didn't start coming with any sort of regularity until about 2017, and that's whenever I got pulled into the young adult Sunday school class, now Gardeners, which Megan helped to facilitate. And yeah, I've just been rocking and rolling since then.
Yeah.
So you grew up non-denominational or Baptist?
Yeah, the church that I went to had Baptist on the sign, but the Baptists in town would not have agreed. There was quite a bit of dancing, quite a bit of hand raising, quite a bit of waving flags and speaking in tongues.
Yeah. Okay.
So more Assemblies of God, I would say, than anything else.
So very similar to what we do here.
Yeah, exactly. I am, in addition to being on the church council, I'm also on the church flag waving committee.
Yes, you are.
And, in addition to this podcast, I've also done some translation work in tongues for various sermons. Yeah.
Wow, people are just learning all the good stuff about you now. All your secrets are out.
There was a joke growing up that wasn't told to people who were actually Church of Christ, but the joke was, and I'm sure you just replace Church of Christ with any conservative Baptist or whatever, but it was you know, you walking through the halls of heaven, and there's different rooms with the glass doors on them, and God's giving you a tour, and He says, "Oh, here we've got the Methodist, and here we've got the whatever," and then you get to a room and it's covered with paper and you can't see in it, and you just, "Oh, who's in this room?" And it's like, "Oh, that's Church of Christ. They don't know anybody else is here." So, anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you grew up in a Baptist, not Baptist church,
Mhm.
and was it real liturgical? Was it like a very,
High church.
yeah,
No, not at all. It was one of my responsibilities as a kid. It was a fun Sunday when I got to do the lyrics to worship on the transparency. We had an overhead projector, so I got to lay the
Yes.
transparencies up, and that was always a fun responsibility. But
okay,
it was a lot of guitarist, praise team up on stage,
Mhm.
leading worship. Worship had no set schedule. At least when I was a child in high school, I went to First Baptist Church, which was a more structured experience.
Mhm.
But worship could be anywhere from the three songs that they had planned to, if we were really feeling it, a whole afternoon. The sermons were not out at a particular time.
right,
I remember at least one occasion where morning service blended into evening service. So there really was no set schedule. You kind of followed the the pattern. But as far as high church, like we're going to come in, we're going to start with an affirmation of faith. We're going to
sure.
some of the beats that we hit here at UUMC. That wasn't part of it, which I think is why I like so much of it now, is that
Mhm.
I didn't have that
Yeah.
growing up, and I
Well,
very
yeah, that's my next question. Like,
Yeah.
for because I don't, I mean, I'm not super. I didn't grow up.
Churchy.
I didn't grow up Methodist for sure. Um, and it seems very there's traditions, right?
Yeah.
Like, and is every Methodist church kind of follow those same traditions?
No.
And did the one you went to at A&M, did that, was it
yeah.
similar to this?
And United Methodist Church, I would say, also followed kind of a high church structure.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so you like that transition from like the flexible uh praise music kind of style to the more high church, more tradition?
Yeah, I lean more toward the traditional service. I like following a liturgy. I like
Yeah.
knowing what the beats of the service are, and thinking about it now. Um, my attending a Methodist church in college, that was a big time of transition for me, both moving away from my family, living in College Station, which was the biggest city I'd lived in up to that point,
Mm,
um, coming out to people.
yeah.
Just a lot of things were different in my life. And so having a place where I'm going to come in, I'm going to sing with the choir, I'm going to, like, I know what beats are going to hit. There was some regularity there.
Yeah,
And, like,
Mhm.
the
sure.
message would be different, the songs would be different, but there was an hour each week that was carved out that this is what you're going to expect.
Familiar. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
like that. And it helped me kind of forget about everything happening around and
Yeah.
just be able to focus in that space. And that's still something that I find very powerful about
Mhm.
Sure.
services here, is
Yeah.
that whatever's happening around, whatever tires are squealing on or on
Yeah, yeah.
Guadalupe or whatever,
Yeah.
uh, inside the church, there's a pattern that's going to be
Mhm.
followed, and
Mhm.
it's not restrictive. It doesn't preclude us from exploring
Yeah.
different areas of our faith,
Yeah,
but it
sure.
gives us a framework
Yeah.
uh, in which to do that.
To work around. Yeah. Jeremy, some of the work that we have done pretty extensively in Gardeners has been around kind of deconstruction for all of us. There's a lot of folks in our Gardener Sunday School class, the young adults class, that grew up more conservative and have had to do a lot of work kind of in deconstructing what they thought they believed about God, or what they thought they were taught about God, or what they thought they knew about God. And so I wonder kind of what that work has looked like for you, coming from a more conservative background and a different style of church, to the work that you've done here.
That's a great question.
That's all I got is great questions.
Yeah,
Chad knows.
It's a long list of them. Long list of great questions. Certainly better than mine.
I would say that my faith journey after leaving home and getting to identify for myself, like what it means to have a relationship with God, what it means to have a relationship with the church,
Yeah.
a lot of that has been working to understand how God loves me
Yeah.
and what that means, and whether, like, what I owe to God, what's given to me by God.
Yeah.
Um, I, when I think about my religious experience growing up, um, much of it centered around this idea of salvation,
Hmm.
around saving
Yeah.
souls for Christ.
Yeah.
Um, like Jesus died on the cross to save us from our sins.
Mhm.
And the part that I don't remember much of is what happens after that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember many an altar call,
Yeah.
but and because of that experience, this constant focus on salvation,
Yeah.
what that means, what it means to be changed
Mhm.
by God's presence in your life,
Yeah.
led to a lot of doubt where I would
Yeah.
still have human thoughts, I would still have human doubts, I
Mhm.
would still have human experiences, I would still sin. And in that environment, like, with that as the backdrop of my faith, it led to a lot of doubt of if I'm still behaving this way, or if I'm still thinking this way, or if I'm still having these feelings,
Mhm.
does that does that change has that change happened for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And so a lot of doubt about, like, am I saved? Do I
Mhm.
need to recommit my life to Christ?
Yeah.
And now as an adult, after taking some time away from the church and visiting sporadically, but
Mhm.
here I feel more comfortable, especially in our Sunday school class, to
Mhm.
be able to ask big questions. I don't
Yeah.
think
Sure.
it would shock anybody if somebody were to say, "Does God exist?" or "How does God exist for you?"
We just had
And
that conversation
to be
2
able,
weeks ago.
yeah, to
Yeah.
be able to debate those types of questions, or to talk about, like, I'm still having, I'm struggling in this area of my life,
Mhm.
or I've noticed this pattern recurring for me, or I'm
Mhm.
really angry with God right now, or I don't know how to reconcile the hurt in the world with this faith that I'm supposed to be practicing, and
Yeah.
really getting to struggle with those things
Mhm.
without worrying about, has my soul been, does
Yeah.
Jesus live inside my heart, um, has been really comfortable for me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I appreciate the space that this church, and to a smaller extent that class,
Mhm.
provides.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody once a friend once pulled me aside when again grew up in a pretty legalistic. Here's the list of rules you got to follow. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. If you can do all that, then you get into heaven,
Yeah.
basically. Um, and I always had a hard time reconciling that. And a friend basically said the problem with that approach is that when you make lists of things to do or not do, eventually someone's going to check every box on that list, and they're still going to be imperfect,
Yeah.
and they're going to say, "Well, what
Now what?
what now?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're going to be left with this big, heavy, question out there that they don't know the answer to, or the opposite is. You kind of you take it to a self-righteous bent where
Mhm.
oh well I'm perfect I do everything on the list,
Yeah.
and so now I can come in here and tell you how you should be living. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think that shift to being in a space where you can ask those big questions and not have to worry about somebody looking over your shoulder. Like, what boxes have you got checked
Yeah.
off here?
Yeah.
So,
And do you really belong here if you're asking those
yeah, yeah,
questions, which I think is the
that's a big
bigger.
one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a couple weeks ago with the college students. I asked the first question of, like, what are you sure of? And then what are you not sure of? So are you sure of, like, you're sure that Megan is a Chiefs fan? You're sure that your mom loves you, like that stuff like that. What are you not sure of? These things. And then the other side of that is, what are you sure about God? And then what are you not sure about God? And we had such an interesting conversation, and it was fascinating to me the things that the students said that they had struggled with or continue to think about or are not sure of. There are things that have never been an issue for me. And part of that is going to seminary, part of that's my age, all those things, my experiences. But there are some things on those lists that I said that I would agree with them and be like, yeah, those are questions I still have, as well, even with all the experience that I have and, going to seminary. But I think having the space to say, I'm not sure, I don't know, is such a freeing experience for so many people. And I think college sometimes allows you that space to do that. But I think the church can be a really great avenue for people to um, investigate what it is that is important to them, because there might be things that they're unsure about. They don't care. Those aren't important things.
Yeah.
Those aren't things that are going to impact my daily relationship with God. But there are things that I worry about and I wonder about every day that really do impact my relationship with God. And I think that that's awesome to be able to find a place that can do that for you. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. That's also, the being able to let go of things,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that I think sometimes doubt is centered around I don't know the answer to this question and
yeah,
I should,
yeah,
and it's kind of like, well, if somebody gave you the correct answer tomorrow, does that really change anything? It's like, no, I don't really need to know the answer to
Yeah.
this. Like,
Yeah.
let's just move on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. I understand that.
um,
Yeah.
I had a question about, you said, what was it that about libraries that you fell in love with, that kind of
The
really,
smell. Is
the
it the
smell? Is it
smell?
the smell of the books?
I'm gonna,
The moldy smell of books.
yeah, I'm going to ruin this experience for a lot of people. But when you walk into a library and you're just overwhelmed by the smell of old books,
Yep.
it's not the books. It is microscopic mold that lives in those materials, and
Yeah,
it's just a thing.
that's
But
very
a
disturbing to
book,
me because I love that smell.
yeah, a book
It's a
shouldn't
happy
have
smell.
much of a smell. I'm going to take a moment to clear my throat, and you can clear this in post. But I don't want to step on anybody's audio. Excuse me. What is it that I loved about libraries? So my job at A&M Libraries, I was working in technical services. So for those of you who aren't familiar with libraries or maybe haven't been to one recently, um, it's not just the people sitting at the desk that answer your questions and check out the books and help you find materials. There's a whole infrastructure that happens in the background to make sure that books get from the vendor to the library, that they get the proper markings on them, that they get out on the shelf, that they're cataloged correctly so that you can find them in the computer. And I was working in that more technical background side of things as a student worker, and it was really boring to me. That's an area that I don't currently work in,
Yeah.
and didn't work in when I was in public libraries. But what that job gave me the opportunity to do was each month I would take an Excel spreadsheet printed out of items that I needed to go find in the stacks to pull for whatever maintenance needed to happen. And while I was out, invariably somebody would stop me and ask, "Oh, can you help me find this item?" "Oh, sure, it's on the fourth floor. Let me walk you up there." And in those interactions with folks, like my fellow students, being able to help them and receive
Yeah.
that gratification of, you had a question, I had the answer to it.
Yeah.
Let me help you
Yeah.
discover the answer,
Yeah.
was really fun to me.
Mhm.
So I took that job. I talked to some of our outreach personnel at A&M Libraries and said, "Hey, I'm really enjoying this library work that I'm doing. I would love to get more students on board with what the library is doing. What opportunities are there for me to help with the work that you're doing?"
Mhm.
So that led to doing some outreach at first year programs or to new transfer student orientation programs, giving presentations about the library. It's not just books. We do a lot of stuff, but kind of opening other students' eyes to, like, here are all of the things that university libraries can provide to
Mhm.
you if you'll just come in or log in or
Yeah.
give us the chance.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's that one-on-one connection of, oh, I made a difference in somebody's day, whether it's
Mhm.
big or small.
Mhm.
And then taking that into my work in public libraries, it was similar, still helping people find answers to questions, but in public libraries, it was a lot of, hey, I've never made a resume before. Can you
Mhm.
help me? Sure,
Mhm.
here's some templates that you can use. Here's a tool that the library
Mm.
has.
Yeah.
And then getting that sparkly feeling inside whenever a
Yeah.
week later that same patron comes back and says, "Hey, you helped me with my resume last week. I wanted to let you know that I got the job."
Oh, that's cool.
That's just, there's something that I feel in my body
Yeah.
in those moments. It's not just like, oh, I feel warm, but like
Yeah.
a shiver
Yeah.
moves
Yeah.
through my
Yeah.
body. And I've never really been able to describe it, but
Yep.
it happens in the small interactions, it happens in the big
Yeah.
interactions. But knowing that I go to work and I might not have made progress on my to-do list,
Yeah.
or I might not have moved this project forward, but
Mhm.
at least for these one or two people that I was able to have this moment with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was really helpful. And now in the work that I do, I work not with members of the public, but with libraries across the state to
Mhm.
help give them the tools that they need to facilitate those interactions,
Yeah.
which is, on the one hand, less touchy-feely, and I don't
Mhm.
have as many of those sparkle moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But knowing that the work that I do is important to help make those moments possible for the 400 or 520 public libraries
Yeah.
across the state or universities
Wow.
across the state, uh, it feels really good.
Yeah, I love the description of the sparkly moment because I feel like that I have those moments when I'm able to sit down with somebody and able to encourage them or take a burden off of whatever it is that pastoral care that I'm able to do or there is something really powerful about having a sparkly moment in whatever work you do, and I'm sure I don't know if Chad knows what a sparkly moment is
I don't
personally.
know.
I don't
No.
think he.
No.
That's not
I
the kind of work he
Here's
does.
a, it's not only in a work
Yeah,
context that I feel that, and
yeah.
sparkly's an abstract word to describe what
No,
it is,
I think
but
it's a great word.
Yeah.
it is kind of like a chill, but in a good way, like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
ooh, a shiver. I don't
No.
yeah,
know.
yeah.
For me, I think the thing that immediately comes to mind is when somebody has a like woodworking project or
Yeah.
something they have envisioned in their mind.
Yeah.
And they come to me and because they know I have all the tools and the
Yeah.
things.
The expertise. Yeah.
And they say, "Hey, I got this in my mind." And
Yeah.
then we sit down and draw it out. And
Yeah.
then I show them, and I'll do maybe a part of it for them. And
Mhm.
like, you can see that they're learning something new
Mhm.
and they're empowered to
Absolutely.
go
It
do
is
it.
empowerment is what the
Yeah.
word is,
Yeah.
really.
And
Yeah.
then it's for me, it's almost like a heat flash. Like
Yeah.
you get excited. You're like, I'm so excited for you. And like
Yeah.
this maybe crack into this world that you're about to explore and
Mhm.
realize that you can do a whole lot of
Yeah.
more stuff
You're
with
pa-
just
you're
this little bit of
capable of
knowledge.
doing those
So,
things. Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect descriptor, the sparkly moments.
It's
are,
a physical feeling that I get in other ways as well.
Mhm.
Like if you're listening to a film score and something swells and moves you in a way.
Yeah.
I find it a lot whenever I'm either listening to or singing hymns.
Yeah.
It's something that I would have accredited to the Holy Spirit when I was growing up, but then as I realized, oh,
Yes.
this is just a key change in the worship music that we're singing, and it's making me feel that way. But now coming back to it, I'm not so unsure that
Yeah.
it's not the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit. Like I don't know, it's something motivating to me and
Absolutely.
I
lets me know that I'm
recently
doing
read an
something right.
article kind of about that people who get goosebumps from music.
Yeah.
Um, there's a genetic wiring that is
Interesting.
different in them than people
Yeah.
that don't have that sensation.
Yeah. I love that.
Because yeah, very much like film score or something like
Mhm.
that, where it is like what they're doing, but
Mhm.
even at like you can identify the pieces and you're like, okay, now it's gonna swell and
Mhm.
there's going to be crescendo, and
Mhm.
it still gets you. It's
Mhm.
because it's done well.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah. It's very good.
or you're a '90s kid. You grew up in the '90s mainly.
I was born in 1990.
Okay,
My gosh.
so I'm trying to.
Sorry.
Well, I was I was curious. I remember my kind of first experience going to a library. We learned the Dewey Decimal System and the card catalog, and I remember like thinking that this woman was a wizard because she could like go through these catalogs, pull this thing out, and tell me exactly where this book was. But like the internet had to be game changer for that, right? And computers that were readily available in every because I don't know when computers became like a daily household. I mean, a household. My dad was a computer programmer, so we got one kind of in the early '90s.
Yeah.
But I remember having friends that definitely did not.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'm saying that, other than like it is.
It's interesting.
Is Dewey Decimal is like the card catalog? Is that still a thing? Do they still do that in libraries?
So the concept behind the card catalog is this effort to categorize information and make meaning of it in a way that makes it findable.
Mm-hmm.
And to that extent, that still exists. Is it a physical card in a physical box somewhere? No.
It's a SQL database.
Most libraries, it's a database,
Yeah.
an open public access catalog, or an OPAC is
Yeah.
what we would call it. Drop that word with your library friends, and you'll sound real smart. Um, but yeah, the theory behind organizing information in a findable way still very much guides. It makes a library what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Dewey Decimal System, Melville Dewey, developed it in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and decimal just means it's divisions of 10. So think about the whole scope of human knowledge, create 10 categories, 10 buckets for that information, and every piece of information is going to fall into one of these big 10 buckets. So your zeros, your 100s, your 200s, your 300s. And then in each of those buckets, okay, do it again. Break it up into 10. And so now you have your 110s, your 120s, your 130s. And then with each of those buckets, just keep breaking it down. And you can do that infinitely. If you go to some university libraries, most university libraries use a different classification system that allows more flexibility. But if you go to a larger public library that uses Dewey Decimal, you'll see some call numbers that are the 3 numbers, a decimal point, and then 7 digits out. And each of those digits has meaning in them. It says that it's in this big bucket, it's in the 800s, it's in literature, and then it's the 820s, which means that it's from this country, and then it's in this, and it's this type of literature. And then it just,
I didn't know that.
those numbers tell you so much about the item.
Yeah,
Now on a
Excuse
very
me.
special episode of Stuff You Missed in History Class.
Yeah. And so walk into a library now, and you might not see the card catalog. You might
Yeah.
not need to pull out a drawer and
Yeah.
rifle through the cards.
Mhm.
You can do keyword searches, and it pulls information that's still stored in those records, the same information that
way.
would have been printed on those cards, but you can search it so much more robustly
Yeah.
without
Ah,
having
quicker.
to be led into this system that does feel very proprietary. It is kind of a
Yeah.
gatekeeping mechanism of, I need to ask a librarian to do this versus
Mhm.
more of a search experience like you might have on the internet,
Yeah.
on Google,
Yeah. Yeah.
Alta Vista back in the day, those types of things.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
Megan, that was secretly a good question.
Yeah,
that
it was
came
a
out
good, it
of
was a
that.
very good question.
Okay.
I was surprised.
I know.
I mean, it came around.
That's the one you get, basically. There's no more.
The only good question you get.
I'm tapped out.
Jeremy, you're also a big music fan. You're in the choir. We just had Jan in here the other day, who's also a big fan of music and was in the choir for a
And
while.
Sandy, yeah.
Oh, and Sandy too. I forgot Sandy too. I wonder, have you always sung in choirs, or kind of how did that come about for you?
I would say that I've always been musical.
You have a beautiful singing voice.
Well, thank you very much. I won't show it off on the podcast. You'll have to come to church for that. I've always been musical. I think for me, a big part of it was around the time I was in first grade. My sister's 3.5 years older than me. There were some other kids at our church that had similar sibling divisions. Anyway, a bunch of us, our church pianist, decided to offer piano lessons. And so a bunch of kids from church all signed up. And it was great because it was somebody that we knew and it was convenient. She worked at my elementary school, so I'd ride home with her and then we'd have our lessons and then it would be great. And after about 6 months, everybody else had dropped off, but I stuck with it. And I kept doing piano lessons through 6th grade. I changed teachers. That teacher, the last teacher that I had, retired and never got around to finding another teacher. But that's also around the time that I joined band, pardon me, playing bassoon. So I started learning bassoon in 6th grade, and then other instruments added onto that. I played tenor saxophone for marching band. I played trombone one year. Got to play contrabassoon in college. Always kept up a little bit with the piano. But music has always been a part of my life. I mean, from 6th grade through my senior year of college, band was the biggest class on my schedule.
Yeah.
So that's always been fun. Singing in choirs has been less consistent. We did a 4th grade choir. We did a 6th grade choir. I did both of those. But in high school, you really had to kind of specialize. Like, you're going to be a band kid or you're going to be a choir kid. You could do both of those, but at the
Yeah.
expense of the number of AP classes you could take. It's
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
So band was my focus throughout that. But it was in college at A&M United Methodist that I started singing in a church choir again. And that was a lot of fun. Again, it was a high church experience, which was different and novel to me. And I enjoyed putting on the robe and singing from a hymnal.
Yep.
And it's something that I really enjoy here. I've sung with some other community choirs, the Austin Gay Men's Chorus, formerly the Capital City Men's Chorus. I did that for a brief time, and now that I'm in the church choir, that's really where I'm focusing.
Yeah.
They came and
Yes,
sang,
they did.
didn't they? They sang.
Yeah, I think Jeremy was part of bringing
were
them
you
here.
I was.
Yeah.
Oh man, y'all sang.
It was so beautiful.
One of my favorite, and now I'm blanking, of course, "Parting Glass." Did y'all sing that one? Was that
The Austin Gay Men's Chorus sings Parting Glass quite frequently if it has to sing at memorial services for former choir members. It's something that we sang at a St. Patrick's Day concert.
well? It was sung here in the sanctuary as the postlude, basically. And talk about goosebumps.
Yeah.
That
It's
was
another one of
that
those
was
pieces.
fantastic.
Yeah, they did a wonderful job. That's very
Did
cool.
you? He's talking about band in high school
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It dawned on me that I don't. Did you do anything like that?
No.
Oh, do you have any kind of extracurricular in
Oh
high
yeah,
school?
tons. No, not really. We moved from.
That was a journey. We
It was
just
good. I'm sorry. We moved from Nebraska to Kansas City, right? No, Nebraska to Kansas City, kind of where one school waited until the next year to do the band, and the next school I went to did it the previous year, so I kind of missed both opportunities. I cannot read music. I did sing in a lot of choirs when I was in like elementary school with the church, and in at school I was in some choirs in high school and middle school, but I enjoy a lot of music, but I do not play any of the music, and I can sing, but I cannot read any music, so it's not very helpful for me. But I did mostly debate and forensics because I like to argue, obviously. So
It's carried over. It's carried over. It's carried over.
these are not new
That's
things
good.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Jeremy, I know that obviously you like books. We just went to a silent book club this
Hmm.
week that was really fun, where you go and sit with a lot of other people that like to read and you chat for a little while and then you read in silence for an hour and then you chat some more and then you go home. It was awesome. Had the best time. Chad would not enjoy it. Um,
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that I'm sitting here trying to think what that experience would be like. Would
I
I
thought it was
enjoy it or
great.
not?
Yeah.
I think so.
I wonder, what are you reading right now? What's interesting to you?
Pardon me. What am I reading right now? I'm listening to Dune by
Oh
Frank Hebert
yes.
on
Uh-huh.
audiobook.
Yeah.
Uh, saw the film,
Yeah.
loved it. Looking
It's a
forward to
long
part two.
book.
It
Like
is a
two
very long
books or
book.
just one?
It is broken up into, so it comes in one volume,
Okay.
but it's broken up into sections. And the movie gets you about halfway through
Okay.
because Dune Part 2 will come out
Yeah.
whenever they decide Dune Part 2 will come out.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to Dune. It's
Okay.
been fascinating. I had to
Yeah.
take a road trip this week for work. So
Yeah.
just a lot of
Yeah.
space science fiction, which has been
Yeah.
cool.
Did you see that movie?
I did, and I
Okay.
have a bone to pick with the director.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was the pandemic still yeah. I can't remember where we were, but we were definitely it was one of those that premiered on HBO at the same time
Yeah.
as it went into theaters. And I guess the director, maybe I'm misspeaking, maybe I'm gonna get a whatever.
Address your letters to 2409 Guadalupe
Yeah.
Street, Austin, Texas.
But I believe he was very um, insistent that the audio be mixed for a theater with all the the theater that has all the
Oh.
appropriate.
Bells.
My ears aren't great anyway, and so we were listening to it, and the sound
I
was
remember that.
so like I
Yes.
could not understand a word. I had to read the whole movie because
Yeah.
the sound mixing was so bad on a home
Yeah.
TV.
I remember that.
And I remember getting so frustrated with Ashley because I'd pause it. And I was like, "Are you telling me you can hear everything they're saying right now? You're telling?" She was like, "No." I was like, "That doesn't bother you that we're having to read this
Yeah.
film
Yeah.
that you shouldn't have to read."
Yeah. Yeah.
I was very
To be
upset.
fair, some of it's in other languages.
That's true.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. But there were some scenes that I'm like, and so I went back and I did rewatch it again, but with my
Oh
noise
yeah.
canceling
Uh-huh.
headphones on,
Yeah.
which made the world of difference.
Yeah.
You
That's
could
a good suggestion.
you could all of a sudden hear the audio. It was
Yeah.
mixed much better.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, I liked the movie. I
Okay.
saw
So
it.
Dune. Sorry, I got distracted.
Listening to Dune,
Yeah.
I would say I almost primarily watch TV with headphones in.
Yeah.
I also am a subtitle person
Yeah.
because it's hard for me to catch audio
Yeah.
just in normal things.
Yeah.
But part of that's just living in an apartment and wanting to be considerate slash
Thoughtful.
afraid of my neighbors. And I don't want to do anything that's going to cause somebody to knock on my door and
Yeah.
say,
That's
could
true.
you turn
That's
that
true.
down?
That's true.
What I'm reading with my eyes right now is Fleischman is in Trouble, which is a book that came out a few years ago while I was working at the public library,
Mhm.
and it was very popular. And I thought to myself, I'll read that one day, but not right now because the hold list is too long. And then they developed it into a series on Hulu
Mhm.
that I've heard rave reviews
Yeah.
about.
Who
It's
was
like,
watching? It was somebody on the podcast. Who was the first person we did on the podcast? Oh, John Hildreth.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
He said he's watching
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Flashman.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, so I've heard great things about it,
Mhm.
but I want to read the book. Unlike Dune, where I saw the film first and then
Yeah.
am going back and reading the book, this is one where I wanted to read the book before I experienced the series, and
Mhm.
I'm loving it. That's what I
Good.
read Monday
Yeah.
night at
Mhm.
our silent book club.
Yeah.
And I will say, carving out that space to be around other people,
Yeah.
it was nice, chit chat, met some
Yeah.
new people,
Yeah.
but also here's an hour where you're just going to read.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm at home, I have all the time in the
Yes.
world to do whatever, but
Yes.
then it's washing dishes or it's
Yeah.
folding clothes or it's
Yeah.
sitting and rewatching The West Wing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
making the time to just
We're
do
gonna
this
talk
one
about
thing.
that. We're gonna talk about that. I have to
it's
issue a correction though. It was not John Hildreth.
Oh.
It was Diane Iverson.
Oh.
Well, I could see how you could confuse the two.
I talked to. I was like, I know I had a conversation, but no,
Somebody.
it was in the fellowship hall. I talked to Diane about it.
Jeremy is in our camp of deep, deep love of the West Wing.
All right, audience, buckle up. How much time we have left? Here we go.
Hours. We got hours left.
Yeah, West Wing. Okay. When did you discover it? Did you discover it when it was on, or did you discover it after the
no.
fact?
Much
He was
after
too
the
young
fact.
for that. He was like 9 years old when
Yeah,
it
it came in
out.
1999. Is whenever it premiered.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. My bad. My bad.
So I came to it in college. I was working at the library, and working at the library has many perks. One of which is you are exposed to the wide variety of content that's on the shelves.
Yeah.
And our media reserves department at A&M Libraries had a lot of popular TV series and movies on DVD for enrichment. If it aligned with curriculum, that's great, but also college kids like to entertain themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so I checked them out and watched them on DVD in college, loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So did that again a couple more times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Austin, I moved from College Station, where I had a really strong network of friends and was just around people all the time because that's kind of how undergrad is, to a graduate program where people were
Yep.
wonderful and
Mm-hmm.
made some really good friends. But
Yeah.
at the beginning, it is more of a like living off campus. You're in a graduate program rather than an undergraduate program. And so making connections is
It can be
sometimes more
very
difficult. And
lonely.
so West
Yeah.
Wing became this familiar thing that I put on in the background. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'll rewatch it again for the third time.
Yeah.
And loved it. Realized that I needed to get out of my house and talk to a live human being. Whenever CJ Craig said something, I don't remember what episode, but she said something, and I said out loud to no one in my apartment, I was like, "Oh, CJ," and then realized that I was trying to have a conversation with the TV, and decided, oh, I need to make some like real friends in the three-dimensional space. But I
Mm-hmm.
go back to it. I just recently moved apartments again, and so it's been something that, because it's so familiar, I can put it on in the background. I have my
Yeah.
headphones in, and then I'm unpacking boxes or I'm
Sure.
like doing whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I'm on season 5
Yeah.
I'm the same.
since last month.
I probably want. So I did not discover it until 2007
Okay.
ish.
Uh-huh.
And a friend of mine, a roommate in New Orleans, had it and loved it, and he was like, "You got to check this out." Um, and so I remember watching it. I binged. I can't remember how many. It's probably 2 seasons in a weekend. And I remember I had a big canoe trip. I was taking a bunch of kids out the next day, and it was 11, maybe midnight, and it was the season finale of season 3, where
Mm-hmm.
the daughter.
Oh, that's season 4. No
Okay,
spoilers
Mm-hmm.
season
on
4.
this podcast, but if
So
it's a daughter thing, it's season
so
4.
season so the end of season 4, and that
Yeah.
how it ends, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, shit. I guess we're watching season 5 into the wee hours, so I just didn't sleep, and I do the same thing. If I'm working on something
Yeah.
in the shop or anywhere, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I just
Mm-hmm.
have it on. It's
Yeah.
just there's something comforting about it.
Yeah.
So
There's something very comforting about it. Yeah. I don't think I really started watching it until probably 2008 or 2009, I think. There would been like reruns on some channel. I don't remember which one it was. Maybe Bravo or something was having reruns of it. And I was catching random episodes here and there. And I was like, wow, I don't even know what this is really about. I don't even know who these people are, but I really love it. And so I started from the beginning when it was on
yeah,
Netflix soon after that, and have watched it through who knows how many hundreds of times. But the other thing that you guys both know about me is that I also have listened to the podcast a
yeah,
lot, the West Wing Weekly, which they did a episode by episode, podcast series, and I listen to that all the time, usually in the middle of the night when I'm trying to go to sleep, because I know it so well, and I know their voices so
yeah,
well, and I know the story so well that it always puts me back to sleep.
yeah,
And there's something I wish I could pinpoint, like these people are my friends,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
have been through all these experiences with them, and I continue to find comfort and interest, and it still amazes me the work that they did, and how I still connect to that all this time
Well,
later.
it's also, I think, and that the characters are so well written that you can identify
Yeah,
either parts of yourself in them, or
yeah,
like, yeah, I know that.
yeah,
I think Friends was kind of the first series that I remember thinking, like, and that was the big thing. Are you a Rachel? Are you a Ross?
yeah,
That
yeah,
everybody, they write these characters that are more relatable than like
yeah,
the Lucille Ball, or
yeah, yeah,
something that is kind of over the top,
yeah.
and like, yeah, so it does feel like I'm watching
Mm-hmm.
kind of, these are friends. You
Yeah,
grow, you know their experiences, and
yeah.
I feel like I'm probably Toby, but want to be more like a Sam or a Josh. But
Well, and I think I watched it so much more during the Trump presidency.
yeah,
Like I
it
really,
was cathartic. Well, that's when it came out, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
it was like the Bush
yeah,
presidency.
yeah,
It was like it saw a surge,
yeah.
and so it's kind of like people living that alternate reality.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anyway.
Chad, is it time for your question?
Yeah, well, it's a perfect segue. Are
It
you
is.
streaming anything else? Are you watching anything else right now that you recommend
TV
or you
shows,
like?
movies. Chad always wants to know
Uh,
those answers.
The best show on TV right now is Abbott Elementary.
It's
Wednesday
very
nights on
good.
yeah,
ABC.
It's very
I
good.
watch it Tuesday or Thursdays on Hulu. Delightful.
Yeah.
Quinta Brunson is a comedic genius. She's delightful in the show. Cheryl Lee Ralph,
So good.
transcendent.
Yes.
Highly recommended for anybody that likes to laugh and feel good.
Yeah.
Um, I'm an episode behind, but I'm watching The Last of Us on HBO based on the video game series.
Yes.
Came out for
So good.
PlayStation years ago.
Yep.
So good.
I did not grow up in a home with a lot of video games. We had an old
Neither did I.
Nintendo,
Yeah.
like old school cartridge, blow into
Yep.
it, put it in.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we had.
Nothing
Me too.
beyond that. So I've not played the game, but the premise is that this fungus that currently uh, makes its way into the brains of ants and kind of overtakes how they zombifies the ants, basically, mutates in a way that it can proliferate in humans. And so it does, and then humans start getting infected, and now 20 years after that initial infection, stuff's happening.
It's a zombie movie for smart people. Is
Serious.
how I've serious, yeah, zombie serious. And I do not like zombie stuff. I don't think it's.
Same.
But this is fantastic. It's
It's
so
on my
well
list.
done.
I really want to
Yeah.
watch it. Yeah.
Pedro Pascal. I mean, put
Oh,
Pedro
of
Pascal in
course.
anything.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Did you see we cut this, but did you see the SNL skit of him as Mario? If you haven't, we gotta watch it.
Yeah, I saw that one. The SNL sketch from his appearance was when they're all at a restaurant and
steak,
she's just
yeah.
cutting her
And he's
steak.
just
I've watched
losing
that
it.
so many times. Watching Bo and Yang break,
Yeah.
I just rewind and watch that like
Yeah.
5-second clip
Oh
over and
my
over again.
gosh,
It's
It's
funny.
good.
Yeah.
It's
I
very
like
good.
Pedro Pascal.
Another great Pedro Pascal performance from early last year, around this time last year. His movie with Nick Cage that was all about Nick
Oh,
Cage being
yeah.
Nick Cage.
Mm.
The unbearable talent.
Unbearable weight of massive talent or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Delightful. He was a bright spot in a very bright film. It was I had a blast.
Yeah.
So,
That's so interesting. I didn't
That's
know
on
anything
my
about that.
list.
Yeah.
Wanted to watch it when it came out, but
Mm-hmm.
do you keep up with Oscar stuff, or do you do any of that?
I used to host like an Oscars viewing party
Yeah.
previously, and even now I'll invite people over and we'll print out ballots and we'll kind
Yeah.
of wager on what it is. Not as tied to it as I used to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
This goes to my theory from a couple episodes ago
Yeah.
that I think that as you get older, your like ability or patience or whatever
Yeah.
to watch heavier, more depressing stuff
Yeah.
is I don't
I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it.
No.
I don't want to see like there was looked like riveting performances from I think last year where Steve Carell's maybe it was Steve Carell and Timothy Chalamet was addicted to drugs, but it just looks heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like I can't subject myself to that for 2 hours.
Another show that I revisit quite a bit is 30 Rock
Mm.
with Tina Fey, Tracy Morgan.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
I haven't either.
Oh, that one I can quote offhand
Yeah.
in much the same way as The West Wing. I'm never not thinking about it. But Tracy Morgan's character, Tracy Jordan, in the show, he decides that he wants to EGOT. He's a television performer, so he
Yeah.
has to go out and he does a one-man show to get a Tony. And he's trying to do an Oscar. Excuse me. He's trying to get his Oscar. And so he works with somebody and puts out a movie that is pure Oscar bait, and it's called Hard to Watch, is the name of the show. And it's just so sad. And he
Yeah.
realizes as he does it, like he gets a lot of accolades for it, and I think does win the Oscar. But he's like, oh, I don't want to be doing this. This is sad.
Yeah.
Like this,
Yeah.
this is just I can do the funny stuff too. But I think about that whenever I'm sitting through a movie. It's like, is this going to be hard to watch? Sometimes. But I like those movies too. I like the kind of darker or
Sure.
my problem is everybody thinks that their movie needs to be 3.5 hours long right now, and that's
Seriously.
not true.
See, so I agree that there's probably too many. I am a sucker for long movies. I do like long movies, and I like long, like slice of life movies, like or character movies, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or The Irishman, where it's just like these actors are really getting into these characters, and I could just watch them
Mhm.
literally for hours just talking because it's so mesmerizing to me. But then there's the movies like honestly, I haven't seen it, but Avatar, it's almost the like bigger production over the top where I'm like I could do like 2 or 3 less action sequences in this film and it would be just as good.
Yeah.
But
I say that complaint. One of my favorite films is Titanic. That was the comfort show that I had before
Yeah.
The West Wing, where I just watch it about once a month in the background while I was
Yeah.
writing a paper. And one of my favorite movies from last year was Tar with Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
And that's also 3 hours long, but I could have watched 9
That's
hours
high
of
on
it.
my
So
list.
it's
And I
very
do like
subjective.
I mean, one of my favorite movies that I go back and watch, I watched it just the other day while I was working here in the studio, is Spotlight. And I mean, that's super heavy.
Oh my gosh, so heavy.
And I just, yeah, it's just, but yeah. So I do like those, but you just have to get in kind of that headspace where it's just, God, I'm gonna be a little sad after this for a while. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyway,
True. True. True.
well, it's been fun.
This has been great, Jeremy. Thank you for joining us.
Can I make one plug to the
Absolutely.
listenership?
Yes.
If you don't already have your public library card,
Yes.
public library cards are available at Austin Public Library to anybody who lives in the city limits. So if you have a city council person, you can also get a library card. If you don't live in the city limits of Austin, come find me after church and I will tell you which library you can go to. But it is the most valuable card in your wallet. So
Yes.
go get it.
Valuable, valuable. Well, Jeremy, thank you for joining us. It's been so interesting to hear about your kind of journey to be here and also about the library, which, of course, I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, that's fascinating. The
Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah.
You didn't know.
I don't know.
Now you know. We learn something every time
Well,
we do this.
and Olivia just got a Kindle. We got her a
Mhm.
Kindle because she reads all the time.
Yeah,
And being able to go and check out books from the library is,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's powerful.
yeah, it's pretty sweet.
It's very cool.
Yeah, don't
Very
pay for
cool.
books.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Don't do it.
Chad, what are you looking forward to coming up anytime in the next few weeks? Anything you're looking forward to?
Yeah, Olivia won a science fair, and I'm
Oh,
pretty
she is
stoked
the
about going to support
best.
her.
Love her.
Yeah. So, and then
That's
Huck's
exciting.
got the soccer game. I told you that the
Yeah.
other day.
Yeah.
That's a new thing, and
Yeah.
and I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that because that's a new thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting electricity put in on my shop
Great.
this weekend.
Just
That's-
one?
Well, I'm having the electrician will hook up the main panel and
Okay.
then I'll run the rest.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
just
That is very exciting.
so I spent all evening yesterday trenching about 100 foot, and that is not for the faint of heart.
That sounds awful.
It was pretty bad. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Ew.
What about you? Well, you're looking forward to Ash Wednesday.
Yep, Ash Wednesday's
something
coming up.
other than Ash Wednesday.
My mom is coming at the
Oh,
end
yeah.
of the month for a week, which I'm super excited about. I have lots of work for her to do. She hasn't been here for
Yeah,
a while.
you said
It's
that.
time for her to come and get some work done.
Does does she have places in Austin that she's like she's been here enough that she's like, oh, I've got to
She's
hit
been here
this
a
up.
few times. Yeah, there's a couple of restaurants that we usually hit up that she likes to go to, and I mean, obviously she just likes it when I cook for her most of the time because like I'm the best cook in town, obviously. So there's that. But I have lots of repotting she's gonna do for all my plants in my house, and we're gonna split some up and give some away.
Maybe
My succulents are
I'll find
gigantic.
a,
Yes,
I'll
you
be
are
the
welcome.
recipient of one of those.
Welcome to come.
Awesome.
So I'm very excited to have her come and hang out.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well,
Friends, thank you for coming to PEEPS of UUMC. Thank you, Jeremy, for being here today and sharing with us about the library information and Jesus. You know, the important stuff. Chad, thanks for joining us on PEEPS of UUMC. It's always good to have you here with me.
It's my job.
Yeah.
Okay. Until next time.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Start over. Do something better so we can cut that out. And at the end.
You're going to accidentally publish this with both sections. She's going to bring this to a therapist one day.
Keep dancing with the devil, but it is a lie back. Keep dancing with the devil, but it is a lie back. Nobody never know. Keep dancing with the devil, but it is a lie back.